The battle for the chief disciple. The moment of victory and defeat between my junior sister and me was at hand. But the life-bound sword in my hand suddenly turned its blade and grievously wounded me. The sword soul said, "Your technique is too fierce. You would have surely hurt her. I didn't want you to bear the infamy of harming a fellow disciple. It was a necessary evil, I'm sorry. They say a sword has a soul and will be loyal to its master. But I was the one who rescued the Mu Yuan sword from the abyss, who brought it fame throughout the world, who was its inseparable companion for decades. And still, it remained rebellious and untamed. Everyone tried to persuade me. A bond with a divine sword cannot be forced. What isn't mine can't be kept by force. Since that was the case, I might as well give the Mu Yuan sword to my junior sister. I thought they were right. After all, using the Mu Yuan sword all these years, I couldn't even unleash 70% of my power. It was time to choose a new blade. So when the Mu Yuan sword in my hand stabbed me straight through, I was stunned. The sword soul materialized, frowning with pity at my wound. "Sorry, it's a few inches deeper than I expected. But it was the only way. If I hadn't turned the blade, you would have definitely hurt Haiding." I looked at the unscathed Jai Haiding across from me. Then I looked down at the bloody hole in my own body. Before collapsing from exhaustion, I managed to squeeze out one last sentence. "Dumbass, if you didn't want to hurt her, you could have just broken yourself. Why stab me?" The sacred sword sex competition for the chief disciple is held once a decade. For a century, I have been the undisputed #1 talent in the way of the sword in our sect. Everyone, from the top to the bottom, said that this year's title was mine for the taking. But now, my title of #1 talent had been replaced by another, the first swordmaster in the world to be wounded by her own sword. When I awoke, several junior brothers were whispering outside my door. My hearing is extraordinary. Every word, though deliberately hushed, reached my ears. Eldest senior sister has really lost face this time. A swordmaster, wounded by her own sword, and to avoid hurting her opponent. If I were her, I'd just slit my throat the moment I woke up. Better than living with the shame. Some #1 swordmaster. Isn't it just because she has the Mu Yuan sword? Anyone with the Mu Yuan sword could be the best in the world. So, this year's chief disciple will be senior sister Haiding, right? Of course. The sect leader is overjoyed. He's sending out invitations everywhere, asking all the other sect leaders to gather at the Sacred Sword Sect to celebrate his daughter's victory. I'm so envious. Hearing this, I sighed. The Sacred Sword Sect was getting worse year by year. To think they were recruiting disciples of this caliber. Their chattering was a cacophony. It was getting on my nerves. I raised a hand and sent a fierce gust of palm wind towards the door. The door didn't move an inch. But the junior brothers outside were sent flying several meters, crashing into the large tree in the courtyard before hitting the ground hard. Having dealt with the gossips, I was about to close my eyes for a little more rest when someone pushed the door open, carrying a bowl of medicinal soup. I didn't need to look to know it was Mu Yuan's sword soul. "You just woke up, you shouldn't get angry. Those are just outer sect disciples with little training. A single palm strike from you will have them recuperating for half a month." I opened my eyes, staring blankly at the ceiling beams. "A single sword strike from you will also have me recuperating for half a month." Mu Yuan fell silent. He walked softly to my bedside and sat down. "Here, drink the medicine. It's a gift from the Elder of Medicine Peak. It will help your injuries." The Elder of Medicine Peak. Wasn't that Jai Haiding's great uncle? He'd disliked me since I was a child. He'd give other disciples pills that increased their inner force, but he'd give me laxatives. He was going to be kind enough to send me medicinal soup now. I wasn't stupid enough to drink anything he sent. I closed my eyes and turned over, sending the bowl flying with a jolt of inner force. The porcelain bowl hit the floor with a crisp crash, shattering into a mess of pieces. Mu Yuan stood up, his voice tinged with anger. "Q Bai, why must you always be so arrogant and overbearing? Even when you're injured, you refuse to lower your head and accept someone's kindness." At his words, I couldn't help but let out a cold laugh. "Oh, and who was it that injured me?" He clenched his fists, taking a deep breath. "I was thinking of you. Your technique is too fierce. With that strike, you would have been branded with the infamy of crippling a fellow disciple. I couldn't bear to see that happen." I laughed this time out of pure anger. I sat up. In the battle for the chief disciple, everyone signs a life and death waiver. Injury and death are the will of the heavens, but we usually stop short of taking a life. Besides, Jai Haiding wasn't the first person I faced. So many disciples fell before me. How come I didn't see you turning your blade on me at the last second with any of them? Are you really concerned about me? Or do you just forget whose sword you are the moment you see Jai Hating? As a divine sword, you betrayed your master. As a sword soul, you are a hypocritical fraud. If I were you, I'd be better off breaking myself. He frowned, staring at me as if I were a madwoman. You're being unreasonable. Q Bai, must you always be so verbally abusive? Mu Yuan's words were a wake-up call. He was right. Why was I only hurting him with words? Shouldn't it be an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth? So I took out my sword packed with Mu Yuan. Between 2 fingers, a flame sparked to life. The fire instantly engulfed the pact, and Mu Yuan's expression twisted in agony. He fell to his knees, crying out in unbearable pain. I watched him coldly. Indeed, what good are hurtful words? Mu Yuan, do you still have the strength to be so generous at others' expense now? Senior sister, stop. I had intended to stop, but just a second before I did, I heard Jai Haideng's anxious voice from the doorway. So I reignited the flames. Mu Yuan was in such agony, he was rolling on the floor. Jai Haideng was frantic. She rushed in to help him up, then roared at me in outrage. Senior sister, no swordmaster in this world would treat their own sword like this. If you have a grudge, take it out on me. Why must you vent your anger on him? When Mu Yuan was with me, he always wore the expression of a dead fish. I had thought that although his element was wood, his nature was ice. But after I returned to the sacred sword sect from my travels, I realized I was wrong. His nature wasn't ice. He was just purely annoyed with me. In front of Jai Haideng, he was the most obedient divine sword in the world. He would fly up cliffs to pick flowers for her, and he would teach her the unique sword forms we had created together. He would even get jealous when Jai Haideng was choosing a practice sword, destroying all the other options so she would have no choice but to come and borrow him from me. Even I was almost starting to root for the two of them. Given how much Mu Yuan liked Jai Haideng, how could he let himself look so pathetic in front of her? He forced himself to endure, offering a pained smile of reassurance. It's nothing, just the pact burning flames, I can take it. Jai Haideng's heart ached for him. You're lying, you must be in terrible, terrible pain. Senior sister, I'm begging you, I can give you the chief disciple position. Please stop, okay? I nodded. All right. Then I turned up the heat. As Mu Yuan let out a scream of supreme agony, Jai Haideng decided to attack me directly. She was probably betting that I was now unarmed and seriously injured, but she seemed to have forgotten something. When it came to talent and inner force, I was also number 1. Ignoring my still bleeding wound, I mobilized the energy in my dantian and met her killing blow with a palm strike. My reckless, life-or-death style of fighting stunned Jai Haideng. She gritted her teeth and unleashed her full power, but she still couldn't withstand my assault. Just as she was about to be defeated, a powerful wave of sword intent slashed down between us. The sudden interruption caused a backlash in my system. I quickly turned my head and swallowed the blood welling up from my organs. Never lose your composure, even in defeat. Even if I were to die today, I would keep up the act until the very end. Jai Haideng turned to look at the newcomer, her face lighting up with pleasant surprise. Father, Jai Lianchuan stared at us with a stern expression. What is all this commotion? Haideng, you're being outrageous. How can you bully someone who is injured? Jai Haideng stuck out her tongue, linking her arm with his and pleading playfully. Father, senior sister, and I were just sparring. Besides, she was the one who started torturing the Mu Yuan sword with the pact burning technique. I only acted because of that. Jai Lianchuan stroked his beard, looking thoughtfully at the Mu Yuan sword on the ground. He spoke in a seemingly impartial tone. In the battle for the chief disciple, it is true that Mu Yuan was at fault first. But Kier, you're being too willful and domineering. How can you treat your life-bound sword this way? I watched the father-daughter duo's performance with a cold gaze, as if watching a play I had seen countless times. Jai Lianchuan was always like this. He would seemingly mediate fairly, saying a few words in everyone's defense. But in the end, his true colors would always show, and he would completely side with his daughter. I was tired of watching it, so I said directly, "Sect leader, get to the point." Exposed, Jai Lianchuan's face flushed for a moment. He cleared his throat. I just thought of a good idea. A divine sword has a spirit. It will choose its own master. Kier, you only had the fortune of finding the divine sword, but you do not share a destiny with it. I see that the Mu Yuan sword's temperament matches Haideng's. Why don't you just give it to her? After all, there is no benefit in forcibly holding on to something that doesn't belong to you. Jai Lianchuan smiled, stroking his little beard. It annoyed me. So with a snap of my fingers, I sent a flicker of flame from the pact onto his little beard. Jai Lianchuan nearly jumped out of his skin. He patted out the fire on his beard and was about to lash out at me when I spoke first. All right. He was stunned. I said all right, I agree to give up the Mu Yuan sword. Jai Haideng's face immediately lit up with joy. Really, senior sister? Are you delirious from your illness? I'll be blunt. If you come to your senses later and want Mu Yuan back, I won't return him. I laughed out loud. No, I'm quite clear-headed. I only told her half of it. The other half, which I didn't tell Jai Haideng, was this. Using the Mu Yuan sword these past few years, I couldn't even use 70% of my own abilities. It really was time for a change. I didn't waste any time. A drop of my blood fell onto the sword pact. The pact instantly began to burn from where the blood landed, until it turned into a wisp of ash and scattered. A golden sigil on Mu Yuan's forehead flashed. From now on, he was a masterless sword. He probably hadn't expected me to let go so easily. He asked tentatively, "Are you just angry? You're willing to release me now, but if you want to form a pact with me again in the future, it won't be so easy." Jai Haideng shot him a slightly annoyed look. "Don't you want to form a pact with me right away? Are you still thinking of going with senior sister?" Mu Yuan immediately tore his gaze away from me. He said in a fawning tone, "Of course not. To be able to form a pact with you, it's more than I could ever ask for." I watched this scene, utterly disgusted. I could only offer a silent prayer for this pair of sword and wielder. I hope you don't regret it too soon. After all, the Mu Yuan sword wasn't really a divine sword. At best, it was a mid to high-grade sword that had managed to birth a soul. The reason it became famous throughout the world was because it was once in my hands. Before my wounds had even fully healed, I packed my things and left the mountain. Firstly, I was afraid Jai Haideng would ask me for a gift for her chief disciple coronation ceremony. Secondly, a doubt had been nagging at me, and I had to return to the abyss where I found Mu Yuan to investigate. Back then, I was hunting a beast that was plaguing the common folk, but I was careless and got hit by its poison needle. Though the beast was slain, the poison had seeped into my bones. In my weakened state, I stumbled and fell into a sealed abyss at the bottom of a pool. This abyss was strange. If I were an ordinary swordmaster, I wouldn't have been able to enter the seal. But when I used the sacred sword sex core technique to regulate my energy, I could pass through it freely. The process of expelling the poison was perilous, and I spent a long time recuperating in the abyss. Fortunately, a wisp of sword intent had been protecting me the entire time, even lending me a hand when I was at my weakest. After I recovered, I wanted to find the source of this sword intent. I looked up and saw the Mu Yuan sword in the pool. To repay the kindness, I rescued it. I took it with me to roam the world, fighting for justice and building its reputation as the #1 divine sword. But only I knew the truth. The Mu Yuan sword wasn't actually that powerful. In fact, many times, it couldn't handle the full force of my inner energy at all. So why would someone expend so much effort to create an abyss and a seal to trap such a sword, one with no terrifying destructive power, at the bottom of a pool? Originally, it was just a shadow of a doubt in my mind. But this time, when I was injured, Mu Yuan's sword intent entered my body. I became 70 or 80% certain that Mu Yuan was not the sword that had saved me. There was another sword at the bottom of that pool. Following my memory, I arrived at the edge of the small pool. At first glance, it looked no different from any other river pool. But by channeling the sacred sword sex inner core technique, one could see the massive seal covering the entire surface. I walked to the bottom of the pool. Everything was just as it had been. The strangest part was precisely that everything was as it had been. If the sealed sword was gone, the sealing formation should have collapsed and disappeared. But it was still here. That could only mean my guess was correct. I recited a mantra, searching for the strongest fluctuation of sword intent at the bottom of the pool. The moment I closed my eyes, I could feel something rapidly approaching me. Not one wisp of sword intent, but two. I snapped my eyes open. Two sword souls, a male and a female with similar features, appeared before me. The female sword soul smiled, her eyes narrowed, tilting her head as she curiously sized me up. The other, the male sword soul, was expressionless, just staring intently at me. The curious one was excited, her slitted pupils like those of a feline. "Brother, you were right, she really came back." Hearing this, I was a little surprised. These days, even sword souls came in brother-sister pairs. The brother's expression was placid, as he uttered the most arrogant words in the most ordinary tone. "It's not surprising. The only swords in this world worthy of her are us. And the only swordmaster worthy of us is her. It's just a pity she was blind back then, picking up some piece of junk that only birthed a soul by absorbing our spiritual energy, and then leaving with it. As they spoke, they moved to my left and right. The brother merely took my wrist, frowning as he examined the calluses on my right hand from wielding Mu Yuan. The sister, however, practically draped her entire self onto me. She lowered her head, resting it in the crook of my neck. Suddenly, she smelled something, and her whole body stiffened for a moment. "You were hurt by that piece of junk." Hearing this, the brother's nose twitched, and his frown deepened. I was thinking of keeping it around for slicing melons, but now it seems it's better off broken. The sister's slitted pupils gradually turned red. She quickly grabbed my hand and said, "Then let's not waste any time. Form a pact with us, and then we'll go shatter that sword." We just met and you want to form a pact. I cast a look at the brother, hoping he would rein her in. Who knew? My look seemed to have made him misunderstand something. Not only did he not stop her, but he joined her in grabbing my hands, trying to prick my fingertips for blood to form the pact. "You're right. Form the pact immediately." "Me? Hello, does anyone here care about my opinion?" "Stop, who are you two anyway?" I couldn't take it anymore and clenched both my hands into fists. It was my solemn duty to protect my fingertips. With no fingers to prick, the siblings looked up at me in perfect unison. Such a heartless swordmaster. When you were poisoned and healing, my brother and I protected you so you could expel the poison smoothly. Back then, you were even saying in your dreams that you would find us and repay our kindness. The brother nodded expressionlessly, picking up the thread. "And then you woke up, turned around, and left with another sword. Now you're saying you don't know us." After a moment's thought, he added, "Heartbreaker." I instinctively followed their words and explained. "The first thing I did after I recovered was look for the sword that saved my life. But at that time, I only saw Mu Yuan. I didn't see you two at all." At this, the siblings fell into a strange silence. I asked curiously, "So where were you two at the time?" The sister gave me a deep look, then spoke as if she were a martyr going to her death. "We saw you were about to wake up, so we thought we'd find a prettier scabbard to wait for you. After all, the ancient sword proverbs say that humans are visual creatures." The brother continued, "We just went to the bottom of the abyss to polish our scabbards. When we came back, you were gone." I looked at the siblings' clothes, which were as black as ink. What was there to polish on scabbards like these? Polish them into a rainbow of blacks. I took a deep breath and asked again, "So what's the deal with the Mu Yuan sword? You two seem to really look down on him." The sister threw up her hands. "Just a common iron sword that the cultivator who set up the formation accidentally dropped in here. Over the years, it absorbed the spiritual energy leaking from my brother and me, and that's how it managed to birth a soul." I had a sudden realization. No wonder it's so pathetic. The sister giggled. "Now you see how great my brother and I are, right? Quick, form a pact with us, and we'll storm the sacred sword sect and get revenge for you." As she spoke, they tried to pry my hands open again. But a sudden thought struck me. Wait, how did they know I was from the sacred sword sect? Hold on. Don't avoid my first question. Who are you? Why were you sealed in this place? And how do you know I'm from the sacred sword sect? Hearing my questions, the sister asked back a little suspiciously. You have such a powerful sacred sword sect core technique, but you don't know where this is." I was getting more and more confused. "I don't." Seeing me shake my head seriously, the sister leaned back and burst out laughing. "No wonder. But since you don't know my brothers and my origins, I can't answer your first two questions for now. As for the last one, I can tell you. Because this abyss seal can only be entered with the sacred sword sect's inner core technique. The day you take the title of chief disciple of the sacred sword sect will be the day all mysteries are unraveled." At this, the two sword souls dissolved into phantom forms, circling around me. This was the beginning of the pact ceremony. The brother's voice emerged from within the phantoms. "I know what you're worried about. We are not malevolent swords that bring disaster to the world. We were sealed here for other reasons. If you're still uneasy, we can form another pact with you." Another pact? It was a very ancient type of sword pact. Once formed, the divine sword would lose its autonomy, its every move dictated by the master's will. Its very life would be linked to the master's, making it impossible for it to ever harm its master. Furthermore, if the divine sword showed even a hint of disobedience, the master could easily turn it into scrap metal through the pact. This type of pact was so harsh that, out of respect for the code of the sword, most swordmasters no longer used it. I never thought they would offer to bind themselves with a nether pact. But there's no such thing as a free lunch. For two swords of such terrifying power to be so eager to form a pact with me, it was impossible that they wanted nothing in return. So I asked, "Then what do you want from me?" The sword souls slowly approached me, their voices bewitching. "We want you to take the position of chief disciple and turn the sacred sword sect upside down. Turn it upside down." What a coincidence. I wanted that too, but not from Yu Yuan and Jai Hating. It was for that person. The Sacred Sword Sect prided itself on being the greatest sect in the world, with extremely high standards for discipleship. Any disciple you picked out would be from a powerful, well-connected family. But I came from a humble background, just a girl whose father was about to sell her by the pound. That was when Senior Sister he found me and saved me. She was the eldest senior sister of the Sacred Sword Sect, full of passion, a heart born for the great Tao of the world, yet willing to look down and see a small, drifting duckweed like me. Senior Sister, he said that as long as I became strong myself, no one could control my life anymore. So she brought me back to the Sacred Sword Sect, begging the sect leader to accept me. The sect leader reluctantly agreed, treating me as a disciple in name only, never teaching me swordsmanship. Every day after her own training, Senior Sister, he would secretly come to find me, and with a small wooden stick, teach me how to swing a powerful sword. I grew up in the Sacred Sword Sect like this, and gradually, my extraordinary talent for the way of the sword began to show. The sect leader's eyes lit up when he saw my swordplay, and his attitude changed immediately. He accepted me as an inner sect disciple, teaching me the core techniques and mantras. That was the year Senior Sister, he shone brightly in the arena, and became the chief disciple. The Sacred Sword Sect had a forbidden ground. Legend had it that if one cultivated in the forbidden ground, their inner force could advance by leaps and bounds, rivaling the great masters. And only the current sect leader and chief disciple could set foot in this forbidden ground. The night before Senior Sister he entered the forbidden ground, she called me out for a heart-to-heart talk. Looking at the moon, she was full of hope. "Xiaobai, when I come out of the forbidden ground, let's go down the mountain together to help the weak and fight for the poor. I think I'll be very powerful by then. I can protect everyone and rid the world of suffering." My Senior Sister's kindness was too pure. So pure it was almost naive. She didn't know that as long as people existed in this world, suffering would never end. But I didn't argue with her. I just nodded and said, "Okay, wherever Senior Sister goes, I'll go." But everything changed the day she came out of the forbidden ground. She was like a jewel that had been robbed of all its brilliance, suddenly dim and lusterless. She became silent, ignoring whatever anyone said. I was terrified. I asked her what was in the forbidden ground. Her face was weary, her eyes dull and gray. She said nothing, just looked at me for a long, long time. That night, a scream tore through the sky of the Sacred Sword Sect. It was my Senior Sister's body, found under a parasol tree. Her death and the secret of the forbidden ground became my nightmare. So I wanted to become the chief disciple, to go into that forbidden ground myself and find the answers. Now, I might as well take these two swords and wait for the next decade. All right, let's turn it upside down. I pricked my fingertip. A drop of blood fell into the sword formation. The nether pact was formed. I closed my eyes. In the sea of my consciousness, the names of two swords gradually appeared. One, with the element of water, was heavy and steady, its sword intent like a monstrous wave. Its name was Fenghua. The other, with the element of fire, was agile and nimble, swift and extremely destructive. Its name was Fuhong. For 10 years, a swordmaster wielding dual swords appeared in the martial world. Wearing a bamboo hat, her face was never seen, and she never revealed her sect. Wherever she went, the people could sleep soundly, free from the threat of monsters. Because this person often appeared at night, she was called the Moonlit Heroine. 10 years passed in a flash. Roaming the world with Fuhong and Fenghua all these years, I had developed an astonishing level of tacit understanding with them through every real battle. Now my sword moved with my thoughts, my technique seamless and natural. There were 5 days left until the final battle for the chief disciple. It was time to go back. Let's get some rest. We'll head for the Sacred Sword Sect tomorrow. I was about to blow out the candle when a commotion suddenly erupted from downstairs in the inn. "Waiter, bring us your best wine and food, and clear out all the best rooms for us." The waiter was in a difficult position. Honored guests were fully booked today. "I'm afraid we can't clear out any rooms." "Are you looking to die? Do you know who we are?" The commotion paused for a moment. Then the waiter's panicked voice rang out. So you are the great heroes from the Sacred Sword Sect. My deepest apologies. I'll go upstairs right now and discuss it with the guests in the premium rooms. Hearing this, the three of us exchanged a smile. Sacred Sword Sect. Perfect timing. Before long, the waiter was indeed knocking on our door. Before he could even speak, I had already gone downstairs with my sword. The few men in Sacred Sword Sect disciple robes were already drinking from wine jars. Perhaps the mortal world had given them a sense of superiority, for they began to loudly discuss the sect's gossip. Why do I hear that Jai Haideng is choosing a new sword? What? Even the Mu Yuan sword can't satisfy her appetite. What's so great about the Mu Yuan sword? It was decent when it was in Qiu Bai's hands, but for some reason, it's like a different sword in Jai Haideng's hands. Her forms are all crooked. I'd say it's not even as good as the one I'm holding. Stop worrying about things that aren't your business. She's the chief disciple. She's already been training in the Forbidden Ground. Her power has soared. I bet even if the old Qiu Bai came back, she wouldn't be a match for her now. Speaking of Qiu Bai, after she was defeated back then, she just scurried down the mountain. There's been no news of her for years. Is she dead? It'd be best if she's dead. I still remember that year when she was injured, I was assigned to guard her door. I just said a couple of things about her to the guy next to me, and she sent me flying into a tree with a single move, a real battle axe. Her death would be a service to the people. I raised an eyebrow. So it was an old acquaintance. I hid Fu Hong, keeping only Feng Hu in my hand. I walked over to their table and asked in a low voice, "Are you the ones who want to take my room?" They didn't even look up, just slapped the Sacred Sword Sect's token on the table. We've been slaying demons and monsters down the mountain. We've worked hard. It's only right that we get the best rooms. I said oh and nodded, but I heard that the nearby demons were all taken care of by the Moonlit Heroine long ago. Who are you here to slay? Sliced pork head. At my words, they were immediately provoked. They slammed their palms on the table, reaching for their swords. I think you're looking to die. The word die was only half spoken. My scabbard was already pressed against his throat. A gust of sword wind had risen, and I had already, without them realizing, seized control of their vital points. I lifted my bamboo hat, revealing the face hidden beneath. I smiled gently at the old acquaintance before me. Little junior brother, it's been 10 years. Your mouth is still as deserving of a slap. The others, who had never seen me, were all confused. Only he was trembling like a leaf, his legs shaking uncontrollably. He stared at me with wide eyes, his face full of disbelief. Senior sister. I smiled and patted his cheek. Good, you still recognize me. I withdrew my scabbard. With a wave of my hand, I shredded their clothes to tatters. I didn't like the look of those robes. I also snapped the Sacred Sword Sect token in half, as punishment for them abusing their authority. As I turned to go upstairs, I added over my shoulder, "Oh, by the way, there are no rooms for you here. You'd better not sleep, travel through the night. And it would be best if you could get back to the Sacred Sword Sect before me and deliver a message for me. Just say that Qiu Bai is coming back." The decennial battle for the chief disciple was always a grand affair. But this year, it seemed a little different. There was a tension everywhere, as if facing a great enemy. It was probably because my little junior brother advance party had arrived early and delivered the news. I walked up the steps one by one. At the very top, Jai Haideng looked a little nervous, and the Mu Yuan sword by her side just stared at me intently. They watched my every step until I stood on the arena platform. Jai Haideng finally couldn't hold it in any longer. "Qiu Bai, why did you come back? Why are you standing on this platform again?" I threw up my hands. The sect has no rule that a disciple can only participate once. Besides, I never left the Sacred Sword Sect when I departed. By all rights, I can stand here. Junior sister Jai, are you asking this question because you're afraid? Jai Haideng took a deep breath, barely managing to keep her expression from cracking. Me, afraid? What would I be afraid of you for? Afraid of being knocked down by my sword again, of course. This time, my sword won't betray me. The Sacred Sword Sect had a rule. If a chief disciple did not ascend or die within 10 years, they had to defend their title in the next competition. In other words, as long as I defeated all the other contestants, Jai Haideng would have to fight me. I held up one finger and said nonchalantly, "I bet 1 stick of incense." Her expression was strange. What 1 stick of incense? In the time it takes for 1 stick of incense to burn, I will defeat everyone and make you come up here. Junior sister, you'd better start sharpening that Mu Yuan sword. You're running out of time. With that, I leaped to the front of the golden bell. With a flick of my finger, I used a fallen leaf to strike the giant bell. With several heavy chimes, the competition officially began. The incense stick had only burned halfway. All the contestants had already taken their turn on the platform. The Fanghua sword had not even been unsheathed. Its scabbard was only slightly dusty. This was the kind of strength a chief disciple should have. I blew the dust off and winked at Jai Haydang on the high platform. Sorry, junior sister, it was a little faster than I thought. Do you need some more time to sharpen your sword? Jai Haydang gritted her teeth, thoroughly provoked by me. You've gone too far. Qiu Bai I have cultivated in the Forbidden Ground. I am not the person I was before. Don't you dare look down on me. With that, she flew onto the platform with Mu Yuan transformed into a sword. Her opening move was an ancient sword form. If I don't grind that arrogance out of you today, my surname isn't Jai. I squinted, studying her carefully. Her sword forms were indeed cleaner and more powerful than before. There was even a faint hint of a distant, solemn, and majestic power. Fanghua felt it too. For some reason, he, who was always so steady, suddenly became a little restless. So I patted his scabbard. It's about time I let you out for some air. Come on out. The Fanghua sword was instantly unsheathed. In that moment, the wind and clouds surged, like a storm about to sweep over the entire mountain. The sword soul materialized, working in perfect concert with me to easily dismantle Jai Haydang's moves. The Mu Yuan sword soul couldn't hold back and appeared. He looked at me with some resentment, laughing in his anger. No wonder you were so quick to break the pact with me, so you had other options all along. I rolled my eyes. Idiot. The next second, I met Mu Yuan head-on with the Fanghua sword. The two swords clashed violently, emitting a piercing hum. The shockwave from the impact even knocked over a large number of the junior disciples watching from below the stage. Jai Haydang's inner force had indeed improved by leaps and bounds. If it were me from 10 years ago, I might not have been able to block that move. But unfortunately for her, she was always 10 years behind me. I smiled at her and suddenly increased my strength. Jai Haydang was already struggling. Now she couldn't hold on any longer, and the bricks under her feet were about to be crushed. As the situation on the field became clear, a crack suddenly appeared on Mu Yuan's blade. He was startled and, on his own initiative, retreated with Jai Haydang. Jai Haydang was taken aback, and when she realized what had happened, she roared at Mu Yuan. What are you retreating for? Mu Yuan looked at the spiderweb of cracks on his body with lingering fear. Didn't you see? If I kept going, my blade would have shattered. Jai Haydang never thought she'd be the one to laugh out of anger one day. So what? Isn't that because you're too weak to retreat in the middle of a final battle? Do you even deserve the title of a divine sword? Jai Haydang's voice was loud. Everyone present heard it clearly. Of course, Mu Yuan wouldn't let her trample on his sword's dignity like that. So he retorted, not to be outdone, me weak. When I was in Qiu Bai's hands, I was the #1 divine sword in the world. But in your hands, I've become mediocre. Shouldn't you be the one reflecting on whose problem it is? The two of them started arguing right there, in front of everyone. Fanghua and I were happy to watch the show, so I added some fuel to the fire. Stop arguing, you're both pretty weak. Even if Mu Yuan hadn't retreated, you would have lost just now. Mu Yuan's pride exploded at the slightest provocation. He immediately retorted, nonsense. If I were in the hands of a talented swordmaster, I would be far more powerful than this. In recent years, there have been rumors down the mountain of the moonlit heroine's unparalleled grace and superb swordsmanship. If I were in her hands, I would surely shine brightly. Jai Haydang, so what if you've cultivated in the Forbidden Ground? You still can't beat Qiu Bai, can you? 10 years ago, I must have been blind to think you were a promising swordmaster. The sect leader's daughter, nothing special. To have the gossip be about myself. Fanghua and I exchanged a look. A single thought arose in our silent communication. Is he a fucking idiot? It didn't matter to us. But those words hit Jai Haydang right where it hurt. The chief disciples who had cultivated in the Forbidden Ground in the past fell into 3 categories. Those who achieved great success and ascended to immortality, those who fell silent and committed suicide with a short lifespan, and the mediocre ones who, despite having all the advantages of time and place, couldn't cultivate anything significant. Clearly, Jai Haydang belonged to the 3rd category. She lowered her head in silence, but the aura around her became strangely dark and sinister. As she slowly raised her head, Fanghua, and I saw that her eyes were crimson. Mu Yuan, have I been too lenient with you? You are nothing but a sword of mine. What right do you have to criticize me? She tilted her head and summoned another sword from the air. Instantly, the ground trembled, and the mountains and rivers changed color. It was Jai Lianquan's personal sword, named Overlord, with the element of earth, which happened to be a counter to Feng Hua's water. With the Overlord's sword in hand, a hint of triumph appeared on Jai Haidang's face. My father is in seclusion in the Forbidden Ground. I will borrow his sword for a rematch. Q Bai, I will show you that I was only held back by that useless Mu Yuan. In terms of strength, I am in no way inferior to you. Mu Yuan stared blankly as Jai Haidang summoned another sword. What about me? He asked with astonishing stupidity. Perhaps the resentment between them had been brewing for a long time. Jai Haidang struck at Mu Yuan with the speed of lightning. The Mu Yuan sword reacted quickly enough, transforming to block the blow. But how could a blade that was already cracked withstand a strike from the Overlord's sword? In a few moments, his blade began to shatter from the crack. Click, clack. With a crisp sound, the Mu Yuan sword suddenly exploded, breaking into several pieces. The sword soul materialized, severed at the waist. His eyes were wide with disbelief and fury. The soul, filled with resentment, refused to dissipate, stubbornly holding on to a last breath. But he could only be cast aside like a stray dog. Jai Haidang's actions had caught me off guard as well. But things, it seemed, were finally getting interesting. She advanced on me, step by step, wielding the Overlord sword. Elemental counters, Q Bai. How are you going to win against me? Is this a contest of who has more swords? This is going to be fun. I smiled and raised my hand, shouting, Fu Hong, appear. Fu Hong, wreathed in fire, appeared, and the clouds and rain dissipated, leaving a clear, sunny sky. The wild, unrestrained sword intent was so sharp it almost blinded people. The sword soul materialized, complaining to me with a hint of annoyance. You made me wait too long. Let me see who's the opponent. Jai Haidang was instantly stunned. She faltered, almost questioning her own sanity. This is impossible. How can you have two swords? It's already a feat for a swordmaster to withstand the pact of one divine sword. Why do you have two? I pouted and threw up my hands. I guess that means the rules don't apply to geniuses. Fu Hong, assist me. I didn't waste any more words. I raised my sword and charged at Jai Haidang. Her mind in turmoil, her moves became chaotic. The Overlord's sword was too heavy, making it clumsy to wield. Every one of Jai Haidang's moves was a struggle. She gritted her teeth, barely holding on. I toyed with her playfully. In the lulls of the final battle, I even had time to spare a glance for the half-a-sword Mu Yuan on the side. Unfortunately for him, the moment he saw Fu Hong unsheathed, he guessed my identity. That last breath he was holding on to was finally released. From then on, his soul was extinguished, his sword dead. There was no more Mu Yuan's sword. The outcome that should have happened 10 years ago finally came to a satisfactory conclusion today. I disarmed Jai Haidang. Fu Hong's blade rested against her neck. Any closer, and it would take her life. Jai Haidang didn't dare to move. Her neck was stiff, her eyes red from holding back tears. Why? I've clearly grown so much stronger. Why? Victory and defeat were decided. The golden bell rang on its own, its chimes echoing through the mountains. This was the mountain of the sacred sword sect, acknowledging my status as chief disciple. I withdrew my sword, looking at the Jai Haidang who was so different from the girl I knew as a child. I didn't feel much satisfaction from my revenge. More than anything, I felt a sense of melancholy. Because your sword heart is unstable. For a swordmaster, your sword and your inner force are just castles in the air. The sword heart is the most important foundation. 10 years ago, your father gave me a piece of advice. Now, I'll return it to you. Jai Haidang, what isn't yours can't be kept by force. Her body went limp. She collapsed onto the ground. Her shoulders shook as she covered her face and wept. I walked past her, down from the platform. Now that I had the status of chief disciple, it was time to go to the Forbidden Ground and find the answers to all the secrets. It was located in the sect guarding formation in the back mountains. Whether it was birds, beasts, or disciples from the inner or outer sects, anyone who got close would meet a dead end. I took a deep breath and stepped over the boundary line of the formation. The seal showed no resistance to me at all. It was as if it wasn't there. I relaxed and strode forward. Not long after entering the Forbidden Ground, Jai Lianquan sensed my presence and rushed over from the depths. It seemed Jai Haidang was telling the truth about her father being in seclusion. Seeing me, Jai Lianquan's eyebrows furrowed so deeply they could have crushed a fly. Why is it you? Where is my daughter? He had naturally assumed that with her enhanced inner force, Jai Haidang could easily defend her title. He never expected me to rise from the dead. I smiled. Isn't it obvious? She was defeated by me and is crying right now. Want to go out and comfort her. Jai Lianchuan's face darkened, and he raised his hand to summon the Overlord sword, pointing it at me. Get out. I was amused. The Sacred Sword sect has always allowed the chief disciple to enter the forbidden ground. Who are you to tell me to get out? You left the Sacred Sword sect for 10 years. You shouldn't even be considered a disciple of our sect anymore. What right do you have to be the chief disciple? I pointed to the sky, then to the ground. The heavens acknowledge it, the mountain acknowledges it. I am now the number one in the way of the sword, the undisputed chief disciple. If you insist on stopping me, I don't mind defeating both you and your daughter at the same time. Jai Lianchuan snorted coldly. Arrogant, then today I will make this place your grave. Fenghua Fuheng. I summoned my dual swords. It was a small token of respect for Jai Lianchuan. He wielded the Overlord sword with impressive power, completely different from how it was in Jai Haidang's hands. I didn't dare to underestimate him, putting my utmost strength into every move. Sword intent swept across the area like a tidal wave. A fierce wind howled, and dust filled the air. Jai Lianchuan had a similar aura to Jai Haidang, but his was much deeper. It must be related to this forbidden ground. It was best to end this quickly. I gritted my teeth and put everything I had into striking down the Overlord sword. The immense energy from the clash of three swords nearly shattered my hands. Jai Lianchuan wasn't much better off. He let out a cry of pain and had to abandon the Overlord sword. He clutched his trembling hand, stumbling back a few steps and glaring at me viciously. When his gaze fell on the two swords in my hands, his expression suddenly turned to one of terror. Your two swords are. Fenghua and Fuheng simultaneously materialized their sword souls. The look they gave Jai Lianchuan was one of pure hatred, as if they wanted to skin him alive. It's us. You've been occupying our things for so long. Isn't it time you returned them? Occupying. Was this the secret they were unwilling to tell me? Before I could ask, Jai Lianchuan turned and tried to run. My hand moved faster than my brain. Before I could even process it, I had already sent the Fuheng sword flying. Fuheng pierced Jai Lianchuan's thigh, going straight through. Jai Lianchuan was in so much pain he couldn't even scream, collapsing into a pool of his own blood. He clutched his gushing wound, cold sweat pouring down his forehead. His eyes held both fear and hatred as he looked at us. You want to kill me? Bai, if you do, you'll be a traitor who has murdered her master and ancestors. A villain everyone has the right to execute. And you too, broken swords, don't even think about getting your things back. Fuheng snorted coldly, wiping the blood from her blade with disgust. Kill you? Who said anything about killing you? I'm going to make you just like us, unable to live and unable to die. With that, Fuheng turned to me. You wanted to know our origins, and the secrets of the abyss and the forbidden ground, didn't you? Follow me. We dragged Jai Lianchuan along, all the way to the depths of the forbidden ground. To my surprise, the end of this place was the cliff of the highest peak in the mountain range. Looking out from here, there wasn't just the lush green of the mountains. There was also a colossal phoenix skeleton, stretching for dozens of miles. The skeleton was buried deep underground, but when viewed with the Sacred Sword sect's core technique, it was clearly visible. My breath caught for a moment. It was suffocation, and a primal fear of the ancient divine beast that came from my very bones. I was frozen in place, unable to move. My eyes could only see this phoenix skeleton. It wasn't until Fuheng's voice pulled my consciousness back that I snapped out of it. She looked at the skeleton and said slowly, "This is Fenghua's and my true form." Back then, the founding sect leader of the Sacred Sword sect used a treacherous scheme to capture us when we were weak during our nirvana. 108 sword nails pinned our skeletons here. It was so that the people of the Sacred Sword sect could continuously absorb the power of the phoenix. When they've absorbed it all, they wait 10 years for the next phoenix nirvana, which is your decennial chief disciple competition. Every rebirth is an agony of having our bones scraped and our marrow sucked out. And Fenghua's and my souls were imprisoned in 2 divine swords, sealed at the bottom of the pool, never to see the light of day. The people of the Sacred Sword sect relied on absorbing our power, as well as the luck of the common people in the areas our skeletons touched, to ascend, one after another. This is also why we were unwilling to tell you the truth at first. The temptation of ascension is too great. We were afraid you would choose to side with the Sacred Sword sect. But now, we can confidently tell you everything. You are our most trusted companion. I looked at Fuheng, speechless for a long time. In that moment, I finally understood why Senior Sister, he had been so heartbroken when she came out of the forbidden ground. The sacred sword sect she had always believed in was actually relying on absorbing the power of a phoenix and the luck of the common people to help its disciples ascend. Such a massive shock. Even I was shaken to the core, let alone her. I gritted my teeth and once again pressed Fu Hong's blade against Jai Lianchun's throat. It was you. It was all of you. The sacred sword sect killed Senior Sister he. Jai Lianchun, I will make you pay with your life. Hearing this, Jai Lianchun seemed to have given up all hope and started laughing. He was like a madman. I killed her. It was that fool He Jiexu who couldn't seize the opportunity to ascend. She died by suicide because her sword heart shattered. What does that have to do with me? After she came out of the forbidden ground, did I even touch a single hair on her head? Seeing him still trying to argue, I let out a cold laugh and decided not to hide it any longer. Yes, you did fake Senior Sister He's suicide, but her sword heart was unshakable. Do you know who was the first person to use their life to warn me that there was something strange about the forbidden ground? It was Senior Sister He. That night, Senior Sister He had indeed looked at me without saying a word, but she had used all her cultivation to send a 9-word message into my mind through telepathy. If I die, enter the forbidden grounds, save the people. After coming out of the forbidden ground, Senior Sister, he had been placed under a silence spell. She couldn't speak, and even telepathy was incredibly difficult. This was a common tactic of the sacred sword sect to prevent its secrets from being exposed. There had been other chief disciples before who were unwilling to go along with them, but without exception, every one of them had been placed under a silence spell. The sect leaders would then pretend that they couldn't handle the immense spiritual energy of the forbidden ground and had died by suicide due to a shattered sword heart. My Senior Sister knew that she would likely die after coming out, so she used her own death to send me a signal. When her body was discovered the next day, this game, where I was the only one who knew the truth, had quietly begun. After hearing me finish, Jai Lianchun became even more crazed. He kept repeating, "Impossible." His eyes were bloodshot, like a demon from hell. This is impossible. A fool who gave up on ascension, how could she have started planning from her own death? Ha 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 ha, but so what if she did? So what if you know everything? I have already absorbed 4 rounds of Phoenix power. I am on the verge of ascension. Once I become an immortal, what can you do to me? Feng Yu had been silent all this time. Now he stepped forward and delivered the final blow with a single sentence. You've absorbed 4 rounds and still can't ascend. Haven't you realized what that means? As the sect leader, he knew the patterns of ascension better than anyone. Those with the talent to ascend only needed a little push from the Phoenix power to achieve it in an instant. But for those without such talent, like Jai Lianchun himself, even if they absorbed 10 or 20 rounds of power, they would always be just 1 step short. Feng Yu's words were a wake-up call. In that moment, it was probably Jai Lianchun's turn for his sword heart to shatter. He laughed like a madman. No, it can't be. I'll just absorb some more luck. I can definitely do it. I frowned, recalling the hardships and suffering of the common people nearby. No wonder everyone was living such a hard life. It turned out someone had sucked all their luck dry. Jai Lianchun, stop struggling. Release all the luck you've absorbed and return it to the people down the mountain. Hearing this was like stepping on his tail. Impossible. His voice became shrill. I won't give it back. There is a fixed amount of luck in the world. If I don't take the luck of those useless people, how can I achieve the Tao and ascend? To the victor go the spoils. If I can take it, then it's mine, mine. Unrepentant, I roared, and with Feng Hua and Fu Hong on either side, we lifted Jai Lianchun into the air. Since he was unwilling to return it voluntarily, we would have to help him. It would just be a little bit painful. We locked Jai Lianchun in a formation. This formation would slowly strip away all the luck he had absorbed and continuously transfer it back to the people down the mountain, until his sea of consciousness was dry and all the luck was returned. After setting up the formation, I looked up at Feng Hua and Fu Hong. Without a word, I took out the nether pact and broke it myself. In an instant, the pact sigils on their foreheads flickered, and they were no longer bound to me. Our initial reasons for forming the pact were not pure. I wanted to use their power to become the chief disciple and enter the forbidden ground, and they wanted to use my core technique to escape the abyss. But in 10 years, we had crossed mountains and rivers together. We had watched the starry sky on the endless plains. Any schemes or calculations had long since scattered in the wind somewhere. I forced a relaxed smile. You've been with me for 10 years, it's time for you to find yourselves. Today is the day of the Phoenix Nirvana. Go on. I want to see the most beautiful plumage in the world. The two of them exchanged a look. It was clear that neither of them really wanted to go. I had no choice but to push them, one with each hand, to the edge of the cliff. Hurry up, my little phoenixes. It's your turn to be reborn. They moved in unison, both turning back to hug me. A long, heavy embrace. Then they turned again, and without a second thought, flew towards their own skeletons. The phoenix souls returned to their bodies. The skeleton that covered the mountains glowed with a breathtaking light. A phoenix cry that echoed through the heavens summoned the colorful clouds of the 9 skies. The skeleton that stretched for dozens of miles became a sea of red flowers blooming all over the mountain. It was sunset. The phoenixes, like a brilliant flash of evening glow, shot straight into the sky, dyeing the entire sky a dazzling, fiery red. This place was blocked by a seal. Ordinary people would not know that this was a Phoenix Nirvana. But at this moment, countless laborers looked up at the stunning, fiery clouds on the horizon and let out a heartfelt sigh of admiration. How beautiful! A long time ago, I was the #1 talent in swordsmanship. 10 years ago, I was the first swordmaster to be wounded by her own sword. Now, I have become the first chief disciple, without a pact with any divine sword. It seems like I'm getting worse and worse off. But it doesn't matter. I became the great elder of the Sacred Sword Sect. No, to be precise, it's not the Sacred Sword Sect anymore. I exposed the ugly truth of the Sacred Sword Sect to the world. Not only did I lead the common people to smash the temples of those sword immortals who had ascended by relying on phoenix power and luck, but I also did a major cleanup of all the disciples in the sect, those whose skills were not up to par, and those who were identified by the people down the mountain for bullying others were all sent back to where they came from. As for Jai Haydang and her uncles, they seemed to have opened a sword shop down the mountain. But business wasn't good. They rarely even sold a single kitchen knife. From then on, the Sacred Sword Sect was renamed the Sword Sect Academy. There would be no more battle for the chief disciple, and no more restrictions based on family background. As long as one was physically fit, they could come here to learn swordsmanship and core techniques. If any of them used what they learned to cause trouble in the world, they would be dealt with by my sword. Senior sister, he said she hoped there would be no more suffering in the world. I think I may not be able to fulfill that wish of hers. But what I can do is protect this one region. I honored her as the sect leader. The previous chief disciples who had supposedly died by suicide due to a shattered sword heart were honored by me as the elders of the various peaks. Everyone would know their stories. And naturally, there would be people to inherit their legacy. Once the Sword Sect Academy was more stable, I packed my bags and went down the mountain again. Senior sister, he loved to meddle in other people's business. Now, I'm starting to like it a little too. As I reached the foot of the mountain, I was struggling with whether to go south or north. Suddenly, 2 sword souls appeared behind me. They were no longer in their dark, inky scabbards, but in robes of water blue and fiery red. 2 voices spoke at the same time. Go south. Go north. I smiled without turning back. Then why don't we just go east?